Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? We are hoping everyone is in a very well condition. Presenting our topic, speech, here's the presentation from Group 2. We will introduce ourselves one by one for each speaker's part later on. Thank you.
Hi guys, good afternoon. My name is Marianti Manulang. So, our topic for today is a speech. So, I'm the first presenter. I will explain about definition of speech. So, let's start. So, you can see on screen guys, there are two expert opinion about definition of speech. The first is from Isdaryanto and the second is from Wijaya. Isdaryanto says that speech is a person activity in front of a crowd by relying on his language skill as a tool. And Wijaya says a speech or public speaking is a well-structured greeting and address to the public. But if we talk the general view, the definition of speech is someone activity in front of the general public to convey or express talk in the form of word and conveyed by someone who is insightful and can be accounted for.
My name is Rati Kusuma Wijaya and I will explain the next part. Types and purpose of speech. The basic purpose of speech are to inform, to instruct, to entertain, and to persuade. You may have several purposes in mind when giving your presentation. For example, you may try to inform in your entertaining style. Another speaker might inform the audience and try to persuade them to act on the information. However, the principal purposes in speech will generally fall into one of three basic types. First, informative. This speech serves to provide interesting and useful information to your audience. Some examples of informative speeches: a teacher telling students about earthquakes, a student talking about her research, a travelogue about the Tower of London, a computer programmer speaking about new software. Next, moving on to the right side, demonstrative speeches. This has many similarities with an informative speech. A demonstrative speech also teaches you something. The main difference lies in including a demonstration of how to do the thing you are teaching. Some examples of demonstrative speeches: how to start your own blog, how to bake a cake, how to write a speech, how to just about anything. Last but not least, persuasive. Persuasive speech works to convince people to change in some way. They think, the way they to do something, or to start doing something that they are not currently doing. Some examples of persuasive speeches: become an organ donor, improve your health through better eating, television violence is negatively influencing our children, and become a volunteer and change the world.
Hello, my name is Nur'malina and I will explain about the functions of speech. Let's start.
The functions of speech. Speech functions can be distinguished as follows. The first one is influencing other people. A person giving a passive speech convey a topic. In that topic, there will be an invitation and learning. So the nature or function of speech here is to persuade the listeners. To be able to influence the other people, of course the speakers must be broad insight and his words must be accounted for. The second one is convey information to listeners. The last one is make people happy with entertaining speeches. In delivering a speech, listeners will be more interested in listening to an entertaining speech than a monotonous speech. For this reason, someone's rhetorical ability is needed so that listeners are happy with the way we convey, so that the information we convey can be understood by listeners.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon all. My name is Raja Lisda Nabila Putri. I'm from Group 2. Now I will explain about our material or the last of our material. Our material is about steps for the speech composition. Speech preparation steps. Before giving a speech, what we have to prepare is topic. What things will we convey later, as well as what behavior is expected of the audience, and how to develop a topic. There are three steps in the preparation of a speech, namely selecting the topic and purpose of the speech and developing the topic of discussion. 1. Choose the topic and purpose of the speech. The first thing we must pay attention to before giving a speech is determining the topic to be delivered, so there are conditions that we must know. 1. Good topic criteria. The part of number 1 is A. The topic must match the speaker's background knowledge. The speaker should speak or make a speech according to what he knows, because it will be a problem if the speaker talks about an issue that he or she doesn't really know and understand. In giving a speech, every utterance must be accounted for its truth. B. The topic should be of interest to the listener, so that what we convey can attract listeners' interest. The topic and method of delivering our speech must also be good. The uniqueness of delivery will be one of the attraction for the listeners. If what we convey is not attractive to the listener, the message that was originally intended to be conveyed cannot be received well. C. The topic must be in accordance with the knowledge of the listener. The topic must not only match the speaker's knowledge, but also must watch the knowledge of the listener. We must speak with the context and see the situation conditions. For example, we are talking to farm workers, but what we are discussing is politics. The message that the listener originally wanted to convey will not be able to be discussed by the listeners because the context is different. When giving a speech in front of farm workers, the appropriate speech is about good farming methods and so on. D. The scope and boundaries of topics must be clear. Maybe we know something very deeply, but later, what was delivered in speech was not entirely, because a good topic shouldn't be too broad. For example, we will discuss topics related to religion. People know that religion is very broad, both about politeness, about faith, and so on. In other, for the topics we convey to be clearer and more detailed. Take, for example, the topic of the wisdom of fasting. E. Topics must be supported by other materials. Listeners will not just believe it if we speak without any definite arguments. For example, the wisdom of fasting. Then, as a supporting material, we can add sources such as books, religious books, hadiths, and so on. Second, determine the purpose of the speech. The purpose of speech can be grouped into two, namely general goals and specific goals. One is general purpose speech. First is giving information. In general, the purpose of the speech is to convey information to the public about something. Information in this speech is usually factual and can be justified, affect, or persuade. The sentences in the speech are persuasive. The speaker wants the listener to do what the speaker says. Therefore, the ability to speak is highly demanded here, so that what is conveyed can be accepted and disgusted by the listener and can be followed up as expected by the speaker. Third, speech can be entertaining if in its delivery the speaker can influence the listener. It would be better in delivering the speaker's speech to include light humor, for example, relating to the problems of everyday life. Second is special purpose speech. Specific characteristics relate to the listener's understanding of what the speaker said. For example, the speaker takes a topic about the wisdom of fasting. The general purpose is to provide information, and its specific purpose is for listeners to know that and understand that fasting has health benefits, helping to improve digestive metabolism. Third is the form and title of the speech. After we determine what topic will be delivered, then what must be done is to formulate the title. To determine and title, there are several things what we must pay attention. One is relevant. Relevant means the title what that we make must in accordance with the theme we have determined in the topic selection. If the theme or topic discusses religion, then the title must also have something to do with religion. Second is or be provocative. As much as possible in determining the title, we make something that can arouse the listener's curiosity so that the enthusiasm of the listeners in listening to the speech is high. C. Short. The title we design must be short, concise, just give the gist of what we're going to talk about. For example, some speech titles favor of faith, mysterious of the last third night, and others. Second is techniques for the developing subjects. If we have determined of the topic and title, the next thing is to determine the technique in developing the discussion in the form of supporting information. There are 6 speech development techniques. First is explanation. The explanation contains a description of the topics or problems being discussed in general. This explanation will contain an understanding or definitions. Example, we need to know that 14 countries ago, there was a very big history for mankind. Not even a few who will ignore these incidents. If we still claim to believe in and believe in the prophet and the prophet, we must also we must also believe in this incident. Isra Mi'raj, namely the journey of the great Prophet Nabi Muhammad SAW, together with the angel Jibril, to the sky and receive the order to pray 5 times a day. Second is analogy. Analogy is comparison between two or more things to see their differences and similarities. Example, human nature is likened to rice that is spread out in a wide area of rice fields. Rice that is good and contents will be even more dark. Likewise, with humans, when they achieve intelligence, greatness, and wealthy, they will become increasingly humble and generous. If humans are arrogant, they will become like empty rice that always stand tall. However, if the wine is strong enough, the rice will break like a human who is arrogant, and arrogant will be destroyed if exposed to the trials in his life. Therefore, we as knowledgeable humans, when given the intelligence and advantages, let us behave like rice, which is getting more and more dark.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name Arlan Asmarullah and you can call me Arlan. I'm from group 2.
Today I will explain you about technique for developing subjects. Number 1, explanation. The explanation contains a description of the topic or problem being discussed. In general, this explanation will contain an understanding or definition. Number 2, analogy. Analogy is a comparison between two or more things to see their differences and similarities. For example, you can read in your monitor. Number 1, of course, explanation. We need to know that 14 centuries ago, there was a very big history for mankind. Not even a few who still ignore this incident. If we still claim to believe in and believe in the prophet and the prophet, we must also believe in this incident, Isra Mi'raj. namely the journey of the great Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, together with the angel Jibril to the sky, and received the order to pray 5 times a day. Next analogy. Human nature is likely to rice that is spread out in a wide area of rice field. Rice that is good and contents will be even more dark, like with humans when they achieve intelligence, greatness, and wealth. They will become increasingly humble and generous. If humans are arrogant, they will become like empty rice that always stands tall. However, if the wine is strong enough, the rice will break. Like a human who is arrogant will be destroyed if exposed to the trials in his life. Therefore, we as knowledgeable humans, when given the intelligence and advantage, let us behave like rice, which is getting more and more dark. I think that's all from me and my group.
That is the end of our presentation slide. Thank you for paying attention so far. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask.